Well, hello and welcome. If this is your first time with us, thank you for stopping by. You're listening to Choose to Endure, the show dedicated to the non-elite runners, where we share stories, interviews, gear, and training tips specific to the tail-end heroes of the ultra universe. My name's Richard Gleave. I have been running ultras now since 2017, and I've taken on and finished numerous ultra distances all the way up through 220 miles, and I am unashamedly a member of the back of the pack, just like many of you listening out there. Now, a little over a week ago, you might have seen or heard that I had an incredible experience back running the Swammie Shuffle 200, a pretty cool multi-day ultra that really tests the limits. But what made this race truly unforgettable for me wasn't just the miles, it was the people. And somewhere along the way, the five of us, me included, found each other, stuck together, and became somehow the self-proclaimed party pack. And through the highs, lows, a little bit of sleep deprivation, some laughter, a bit of suffering, we tackled most of the second half of the course as a group. So today I am joined by my fellow party pack members as we relive some of the craziness, the triumphs, and everything in between. We're going to chat about the race itself, how we ended up coming together, what kept us moving, and the benefits of traveling around as a group doing these kinds of events. So buckle up. This one is going to be kind of a fun ride. Let's jump right in.
Discover raw, inspiring stories from runners who've been right where you are. This is the Choose to Endure Ultra Running Podcast with your host.
He's English, not Australian.
Richard Gleave.
All right. Before we get into what went down out there, I think we should start with a quick roll call. So we've got the other four members of the party pack here on the call. Maybe we kick off with having each of you introduce yourself, maybe say your name, quick ultra running fact if you've got one. Anyone want to go first? Otherwise, I'm picking like we do at work. I'm going left to right on my screen. Stephanie, I'm afraid you're first.
Oh.
As the last into the group, joining the fun here.
Well, I'm Stephanie Fonda, and I started running ultras in 2012, and it was kind of by accident because my friend Mark Z, we were running the Marine Corps Marathon together, and he asked me if I wanted to run Stone Mill 50 miler with him, and I said, I have no idea what you're talking about right now. And he said, well, it's this 50 miler, not too far from home. And it's at that time in 2012, it was $47 to register. And he said, so it's really good value at less than $1 a mile. And you can drop out anytime. So I said, okay, I'll do it. And that was my introduction to ultra.
Nice. Onwards and upwards from there. And I think, am I right in saying this was your first 200, Stephanie?
Yes, I think.
Yes.
I think I'm the only person in the group who has not done more than 100 miles before. So I'm
hold that thought, because I think we'll come. We definitely want to get your thoughts on that from the rest of the group here. How you felt it went on your first 200. But let's get everybody else introduced first. Who's up next? Lisa, you want to go?
Yes. Hey, I am Lisa McFadden. My fun fact is, well, actually I got two. I'm also the race director of Cape Fear 24-hour endurance run. And I always tell people that I do not race races. I just participate. I am a participant in all of these races. So that's why I'm in the mid to the back of the pack with everybody else.
Yes. They're not races, they're events. We just happen to participate in them. Yeah. Fantastic. I love that. Elizabeth, Mike, one of you guys tend to come as a pair, like in a running perspective, I should say.
Well, sure, I'll go. I'm probably the least experienced in the ultra world. I started in 2018, but this was my first distance past 50 miles. So I did this
Oh
race
my
last
goodness.
year.
Past
Yeah,
50 miles?
right. So
Wow.
I
And
did
here's me
this.
giving Stephanie a hard time. And wow.
I did it last year with Mike, but I only made it to the turnaround point. I did 110 over 2.5 days. But this year I was determined to complete it. So I have my first 100 coming up in April at Umstead. I think Lisa's going to be there. Mike's going to be there. I think, Stephanie, are you going to be there as well?
I'm going to be there.
All right. So
Goodness.
it'll be a party reunion, but that'll actually be my first 100-miler. So yeah. So that's my fun fact.
First official 100-miler.
Correct.
I would, if I were you, I would still claim you got all the way down to the lighthouse. So, I mean, that's like, what, 108, 110, something like that. So I would claim that one, even though it's unofficial. But yeah, that's really wild. Brilliant. And Mike, you want to give us your quick lowdown?
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Edwards. Caveat towards Elizabeth. Yes, she dropped out at 108, but then she additional do 60 miles to keep me company. So she took a little day break and then she joined me and I made the mistake going across the beach. I got a little competitive with Dave Moore. This was last year. So we went out with I went across the beach with no sleep for the most part. We met him at the Hampton Inn and went across. But initial plan was for us to sleep at the Hampton Inn and get up, and Elizabeth would join me for the last 22 miles. So, if all essence, she would have made a 200-mile run last year, minus 20 miles that I did by myself. So, um, everyone other than you, Richard, I met Stephanie at Stone Mill in 2012. We ran many miles. I remember her friend Dr. Z, as we call him. Dr. Z loves females. He had a harem of females running with him, and Stephanie happened to have one of them. Help me out, Stephanie. You had purple hair or
Wow.
green hair back then?
It was purple.
What?
Purple hair, yep.
Purple.
Purple
Yep.
and short.
Yeah, very short. So here was this little, you know, we're the same age, but a little punkster running in the woods with purple hair. So I met
Nice.
Lisa at Hots in 2020, I want to say. So that we did we had a party bus or party barge, I think they called it then. A handful of us doing that. I think we stayed together, 4 days, 3 days, 5 days, something like that. And then a
Brilliant.
couple yesterdays ago, 2 years ago, Elizabeth reached out to me and wanted to know the local club that we belonged to advertised that I had done Swammie Shuffle. And Elizabeth wanted to know more about that. And I met her at the coffee shop to show her that, yes, we run along the side of the road, but it's not, I very comfortable running on the shoulder. I know Lisa is because a lot of Hots or Vol States even smaller shoulders. So I understand there's big fear of trucks going by, blowing your hats off and blast you in the
Oh, yeah.
face and all that stuff. So
I think we should have had a running count of how many times Elizabeth's hat either blew off or nearly blew off, as from the wind or truck or whatever else. I mean, it was a lot. So you might have to find a tighter hat, Elizabeth.
I
I don't
might
know.
have to. I mean, I gave myself a sore neck on the beach because I had my head angled down so that the wind didn't blow it off. And
Yeah.
Mike asked me later, like, why didn't you just take it off? And I was like, because my brain wasn't working by that point. It didn't occur to me to just take it off.
Yeah, absolutely. But so I think, Mike, that was a good lead in though to our sort of first group question, if you will, in that, and we've touched on it a little bit, but like, why did you guys sign up for this race? Like, what drew you to Swammie Shuffle 2025 as opposed to other races out there in the first place?
I'll go. I've been wanting to do this race since, for several years. It just does not work out well with my calendar. And this was the first year that it did work. And so I was really excited that I was going to actually be able to do it. And I've wanted to do a journey run in a winter month as opposed to something in the summer months, which I've normally done. So this was a little bit different for me this time.
Yeah. Now, Lisa, you've done HOTS and Vol State with any other big journey runs. How did this one compare?
Well, and then I've also done Third Circle of Hell, and that was 370 miles. Yeah. So this one, anything over 100 miles. It's going to take multiple days for most normal people. And for me, this one was different because you had hotels and you knew exactly where you were going to go. It was an out and back, so you could kind of divide it up based on that. And so for my mind, as Mike has said over this whole journey, it's a beach vacation. So that just sort of gets stuck in your mind. You're like, oh, yay, I've got a hotel to stay in every night. I've got real food to eat, and I know where they're at, going and coming back. And I don't have to sleep in a Dollar General parking lot. So
yes.
That was a bonus.
That's definitely got to be a bonus, I would imagine. Yeah. I do think, though, just mentally, it makes a big difference when you know where your endpoint is every day and you've got some time. I have some downtime there, or I'm going to be able to put my feet up or whatever. When you know that in advance, I think it makes the day more bearable than if you just set out and said, I'm just going to run this whole thing and I'm not going to stop until I need to, and I have no idea where I'm going to stop. I think that's more of a challenge than kind of having a defined start finish every day. How about the rest of you guys? I think, Elizabeth, you talked about not finishing last year and you wanted to definitely come back and make sure you righted that wrong, so to speak. Was that your main driver for signing up this go around?
Oh, absolutely. This go around, it was my main goal was to complete it, but I had a preview last year. So last year when I signed up, I was really ignorant. I had no idea what I was signing up for. I asked a lot of questions, but it was a really big unknown for me. Yeah. And I learned a lot of where I needed to change things, what I needed to do differently in my training and my preparation. And I'd seen the whole course. So going into it this year, I knew I could do it with the right training. There was really no unknown. And I put the work in with the sole goal of completing it. And Mike and I trained a lot. I did a lot of road miles this year, whereas coming into this last year, it was mostly running trails. So the pounding on the pavement really beat me up. So I spent the last year doing a lot of walking on roads and running on roads. But I mean, we've been talking about this all year for the last 2 years, because we talked about it the year before last, going into it, and then again this year. Just what do we need to do to be successful? What do I need to do? Mike is a machine; he just keeps going; he doesn't stop. But I'm a mortal, and I needed more preparation. So that was my goal: just get it done.
Well, we'll get to Mike in a minute, but I am keen to come back to Stephanie with this being your first 200, right? Never mind kind of a journey style race for a minute, because I think they're quite different to other 200s out there as well. So what was it that drew you to sign up for Swammie Shuffle?
Well, a couple of things. The one thing is Mike, he sent me some beautiful photos from his prior experiences.
I'm sensing a theme here.
Yeah, Mike's the glue, that's for sure. And beautiful sunrises on the beach. I was interested in that and the whole beach vacation concept. But it was more than that for me. The cause really meant a lot, or means a lot. I've been working in military healthcare and veterans healthcare since 2003, and so I wanted to, I don't know, just do something more for that community because it's so important to me. And so the cause mattered a lot. And because of that, I was very moved by the story that underlies the whole event, the reason for the event, the suicide of this young veteran. And, I did cry many times during the event when we encountered veterans. Like at a gas station, a veteran approached Lisa and shook her hand, and I went to pieces seeing that really mattered a lot. It felt like what we were doing was, it was for us. We were having a beach vacation, but it was also meaningful for other people too. So that was a driver for me.
I think it's a fantastic cause, and it just adds another dimension to running a journey race of this length when you get to talk to people about the reason why while you're doing it. I think that's really cool, and definitely one of the draws for me, aside from Mike's beach vacation, is the cause. I really love that, and I've got lots of friends and family who are veterans, and just being able to feel like I'm doing something on behalf of that to raise awareness, however I can, is really awesome. But let's not forget, Mike, because you've done, what is this? Was this your third one?
This will be
Is
my
that right?
fourth. This
Fourth
was my
one. Oh my
fourth.
gosh,
Yeah.
I'm totally
It's
I'm
okay.
totally doing you down for one of these. So next year you're back for the 1,000-mile buckle, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think they offer that, but they said something about maybe a possibly, they call it bricks. Apparently they can get a brick from the lighthouse that they're going to offer to me. So that might be
Wow.
kind of cool. So
That's, you walk away with a brick.
a brick.
That's a
So does
yeah.
that mean we're all going back next year so Mike can get his
Well,
brick?
I told Elizabeth, I'm going to say Elizabeth is currently she's my running wife. It's like she was pampered this year with her husband being there and Christina was there. It's like, okay, how about if we try to get with you carrying your gear again? And if need be, last year, we were just becoming friends and we did not really communicate. We were very sensitive on each other's toes, if that makes sense. So this year we have a better understanding of what each other's needs are or what, and I did tell her that I was going to stay with her to be successful for her. I know Lisa from past experience. I see her at Umstead every year. I know what she's able to do. I know chatting with her while she was doing the third circle of hell, she was mentally struggling. The weather was not cooperating. I can only envision what she had to go through in order to complete that. But I know she's one tough cookie, and I've known Stephanie since forever, so I know what she's able to do. So
So
it's a
Mike,
beach vacation.
why? So you come back 4 times. Why do you keep coming back to this race?
It it is a wonderful cause what these two guys put on. The very first one I read about, and it was a virtual 200-mile run, and I signed up for this stuff in 2022 is when I signed up for it, and I don't remember, maybe there was 22 of us, 18 started, maybe something like that. I can't remember what, but I thought I was running 200 miles. It did not occur to me. Now there's statistics out there, there's blogs out there, there's written out there that it's more than 220 miles. But I remember running towards the lighthouse, dark hours, watching that light working, and that
Oh,
light was
that's
never.
crazy.
And this is when was having my timing. I was actually competitive, and it was at 98 miles, and that was nowhere close to 2 miles away.
Right.
So,
Yes.
so when at the finish line that year, I questioned it, and they both laughed at me. So it's like, okay, so I was the fool. So, but the cause per se, right before we got on here, if I can hit you some statistics,
Yes.
rollcar.org, a 20-year survey, they said 7,057 service people were killed in action. Of the 20 years, 30,177 committed suicide of the same time frame. So we're talking a lot. And in my personal life, my daughter has struggled with those thoughts. So it resonates very heavily with me. So until I can't walk it, I'm going to be John Price.
Who actually didn't make it this go
No.
around. I think he realized about halfway that he wasn't going to be able to get back in time, and probably just pulled the trigger for the tap out. But brilliant, yeah. So for you guys, either first time folks or folks that have done this mileage and this style of run before, or Mike, for you that's done a couple of Swammies before, like how do you guys mentally approach a race like this?
This particular one you have to do your homework with, because the unknown is where you're going to stop or where you're going to get aid from. I had done it's defunct now, but there was a race called Tar Heel Ultra, running basically Corolla up to the state line, turning around and running all the way back down to South Carolina. 378 miles in December. And I'm thinking like the Washington, D.C. area, everything is open 24 hours for the most part. I did not realize things closed down. Things did either open during winter time or things closed down rarely till like 4 or 5 o'clock. So it took me 2 tries to get that race done. But from this doing Swammie Shuffle, I did homework. I shared my homework with this my little group here of what stores were open, what their hours were, what their phone numbers were, what hotels were there, what miles there were, just because I did not want to get stuck out in the middle of nowhere. So, or similar to what your experience last year was, I have no desire to sleep in the bathroom or the post
Yes.
office. So,
Yes. Neither of
so
those were particularly
they're not
appealing.
comfortable. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, sleeping on a bathroom floor a la Bob Morizzi, who is the original for doing that, I think. So shout out to Bob. But yeah, that was not my favorite thing to do, I have to say. Anybody else have a different mental approach? Like, how did you think about finishing this race?
For me, I kind of break it into chunks. Chunks meaning by day. My original
Right.
goal was to try to finish by Thursday afternoon because my boys had a basketball game on Friday night that I was hoping to get home for. But by Wednesday, I'm like, no, it's going to be Friday morning and we're just going to take this easy and then break up the next 2 days or the last 2 days. So when I go into these things, I think about it by days and number of miles per day that I want to get accomplished. I also had Mike's cheat sheet of mileage and what was open and what was available.
I think it's a good idea to just give folks a rundown, because this is a really interesting journey run because of what you guys were talking about. Like, it's in the off season in the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and it's 110 miles down to the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse from Sandbridge, Virginia. You run the first 22 miles on a beach, you pop out in Corolla, and then you run straight down, what is it, NC-12, the road, basically, straight down through a bunch of towns to the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse. You turn around, and you go right the way back again. So I do think the lack of places open to get food and water potentially can be a real challenge. And there are some big stretches, the beach being the first one, right out, and then on your way back, which is, what was that, 22 miles, I think, right out the gate, where there's nothing. I mean, it's a beach, so there's nothing. And then, the whole Pea Island, Bodie Island stretch, where there's very little open down there. There's one visitor center in the middle of that, but you have to catch it at the right time for it to be open. So there's a number of stretches that are fairly challenging to do if you are going solo, if you don't have a crew. If you've got a crew that can move along with you, it's less of a challenge. But I think, there are a number of people out there, me included. I like to do this solo. I want that experience and that journey. But it is a challenge, and you really do have to think about, where am I going to stop and what do I need before I carry on? Am I prepped for this 22-mile section where I potentially might not have access to anything? So I do think it's an interesting and slightly different race from that perspective, just given the time of year and the location as well. Stephanie, how about you? What were your expectations coming into this? How did you, you've done 100, if I recall correctly, but this would be your first 200 and first journey race. So when you were thinking about this, like how did you try to compute?
Well, I used the cheat sheet that Mike provided.
I've got to get a copy of this cheat sheet that Mike throws out. I think I'm missing out for some reason.
And I had intended to make notes on it as I was traveling, but I didn't do that. There were a couple of unexpected things for me. I'm sure everyone will talk about their prep. I'm going to talk about the things that surprised me. One thing that surprised me and I found unsettling initially, although I think I adapted to it, I thought the first section was just fantastic. From when we started to Kitty Hawk, I stayed at the Holiday Inn Express, which was, I think, 47 miles from the start. And all of that was just very doable, very safe from my perspective. And then I was very surprised on that second day when I encountered all that highway. I'm just not accustomed to that. I'm accustomed to trail. And, the shoulder was decent, but for a trail runner, it was unsettling that first day. And the bridges were unsettling too. And I think I encountered you that day, Richard. And that helped me a lot.
Yeah.
Another surprise for me was that I thought that from the KOA in Rodanth, I may be mispronouncing the name of that town, but Rodanth, row something. I thought that the round trip to and from the KOA to get around the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse was actually 60 miles. So imagine my delight when I realized, I was telling Elizabeth this, it was like the first time I've ever had a gift like this, when I got to the lighthouse and realized, oh, this day is going to be a lot shorter than I was expecting. So that was pretty fantastic, because I think that was a 48 mile day. So my prep was, I tried, but it wasn't great. I think it would be much better the next time around, but obviously I had made some mistakes if I didn't realize that, there were these long stretches of highway and that I was going to be spared 12 miles on that day to and from the lighthouse from the KOA. So not sure I'm a good person to ask about prep, but that was my experience. So.
Well, apparently Mike needs to update his spreadsheet for that particular
She didn't
stretch.
read it correctly.
I
right,
didn't
that's
read
what
it
it
correctly.
is. Yeah, okay,
It's,
all right.
it's user error. It's well prepared.
And I will definitely take responsibility for not
Yeah.
interpreting that right. But there, that section from the KOA to the lighthouse, you do hit some towns, but there's some long stretches there too. Not just from Kitty Hawk to the KOA, but also from the KOA to the lighthouse. And I was running with Jeremy that day all of that day. And I was really rattled by the roads that I encountered the prior day, just not used to that. And also was worried about that being a 60-mile day. So when he texted me at 1:30 and said, I can't sleep, do you want to go? I said, sure, I'll be ready at 2:30. And that was actually a really cool time to run along that highway. It was at 2:30 in the morning because there were no cars and the stars were fantastic. And I think I would do that again if I did Swammie again. I would do a little bit more of the late night running than I had expected. I hadn't planned for that, and it turned out to be really kind of a high point of the whole event. It was just those quiet hours in the middle of the night.
I love those times, and I did the same actually. I went out from the KOA, I think about 12:30 a.m., but for the same reason. First of all, I wanted out to the sun, but secondly, it's just so quiet and the stars are so pretty down there. I will say though that the only things that bombed past me on that stretch were these waste disposal trucks. So every time they whiz by, you get this waft of air, and then the waste disposal stench came with it. So that wasn't super great, but otherwise, yes. Lots of quiet time out on the roads, which was cool. That's quite a good question, actually. Let's go round the group. Everybody's best day and worst day.
My best day was the first day. It's always
First
the best day.
Yeah.
And then the worst day is typically always the second day.
Huh.
Somewhere between 60 miles and 85 miles, my stomach just turns, and it typically means I need to rest, and I really need calories. And so going into where we were eating dinner on the second night, I felt horrible. And all I wanted to do is just take my food and go lay down. But by the time I left, Elizabeth left with me to go to the KOA from the restaurant. And by the time I was in there 15, 20 minutes, had a shower, I felt so much better and was able to eat and slept pretty good.
Fantastic.
And after that, my body was just used to being out there, and it knew it had, 140 something miles to go.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's just getting over that hump. Once you get past it and your body kind of accepts that, okay, I'm in this and it isn't stopping, it sort of gives up and for want of a better term, I'm sure the scientists out there will correct me on that. But I do feel like psychologically that getting over that second day is a big deal in these multi-day races for sure, and just kind of getting into a groove. Elizabeth, how about you?
The first day, I just love the beach. So anytime I can spend time at the beach is magical for me. And it was sunny, and we hit the tide just right. So we were heading out on pretty firm sand, and had good company and you're optimistic and everything's going right and you're not tired yet. So I love those first 22 miles on the beach. And then I would say, because I had done this the year prior unsuccessfully, and I knew what to expect. Unlike Stephanie, where, I can see where those long stretches on the highway when you're not expecting that can really throw you for a loop. I was mentally prepared for that. So I knew that was coming.
Right. Yeah.
The third day, going to the lighthouse and back, actually was one of my better days too. I felt great. I was really surprised at how my body was able to recover overnight. So we slept. I mean, we got up at 3 or so in the morning. We were out the door sometime around 5. But we were getting in early enough that I could take a shower, could relax, could sleep, could eat, could make sure that I was fueling properly. My experience was completely different than last year. I felt good the whole time, and I was really amazed at how my body could recover overnight. My nutrition last year, taking care of my feet last year was completely different. So I corrected a lot of my mistakes. And so day 3, coming back from the lighthouse, I think knowing that I was sort of surpassing where I had gone the year before and was going farther than I had ever gone was a real boost to my mood.
Was that on your mind, Elizabeth, along the way? Like, was it playing on your mind as you got through day 2 and you're into day 3 and okay, I'm hitting the same stretch now where I tapped out last year? Were you thinking of that as you were going, and was that a driver, or were you just sort of in the moment and doing what you needed to do?
I think both. I think it was on my mind. I was kind of waiting for the wheels to fall off, and they weren't. Whereas last year they fell off much, much earlier, and I was sort of just hanging on for dear life, trying to get to that lighthouse to get a break. And it never happened. It was a completely different experience for me. And so I was amazed at what my body could do. I was amazed at how well my training was paying off and how good I felt. I wasn't expecting to feel as good as I felt. And so going into day 3, which Mike kept saying was the hardest, Lisa, I think, mentioned it once or twice, like, you got to get through day 3 because, like, mentally, like, that was my ending point last year. So yeah. I think there was a build up for that to get through that. And it wasn't nearly as difficult as I was making it out to be prior. So going there and, leaving the lighthouse, I felt great. I felt really good. And I was optimistic. I knew at that point that I was going to make it. There was no doubt in my mind that this year was going to be different for me.
Yeah, that out and back on our day 3, I'm sure for the Zoomy folks out there, I don't know what day that was, like 1.5 or something, I don't know. But our day 3, when we're going out from the KOA back to the KOA, I think it's like, I don't know, 45, 46, I don't know, something like that miles. But it feels like such a long stretch out and back. I don't know how you guys feel it. That's always for me, like, I had a really good time going out as well. That was my best section of the whole race, I would say. Going out to the lighthouse from the KOA, I was able to run. I ran 5 miles straight on that section, which I was absolutely baffled by. I couldn't figure out how or why I could run that morning, but I did. And then it all fell off coming back. So it was one of my slowest sections coming back from the lighthouse. So it sort of evened out over the 2 legs. But it does feel like such a long leg, that, especially from Avon back to, for me anyway, from Avon back to where the KOA is in, I think it's Waves might be the town. I don't know, some just up north of Salvo, Rodan. In that area. So yeah, I just good day going out, rubbish day coming back, but I think it evened itself out over time. Mike, how about you? You've done this a couple of times, so. Like, you always seem kind of positive. Lisa, too. I mean, I think I told you that, Lisa. Like, do you have bad days? Like, you always seem so chipper.
Rich,
but
on
Mike
your way
well.
back, how long did you spend at the lighthouse?
Oh, next to nothing.
Okay.
Because it was cold. I didn't start. I hit the warm restroom there. Yep. I might have had 10 or 15 minutes in there just warming up because it was really cold. I mean, I don't know what happened that morning, but I felt I had to put on my big jacket and everything.
Yep.
But yeah, not too long. I did, though, stop in Avon for an hour at the Food Lion because I hadn't eaten. I left at 12:45 that morning, and there's obviously nothing open at all. So I went all the way out, 22 miles out, and then all the way back to Avon before I could find anything that was remotely open for food. So I had to stop there and get something to eat, and I looked fairly disheveled and cold and sort of homeless when I walked in there. I had to explain myself to the cashier, and she helped me find something or other. But so Mike, what did you have bad days, Mike? And were they the same as prior years or no?
I've had some low moments similar to you guys. I had day 3 coming back. I can't say the wheels fell off, but they were wobbling. I think the discussion I had we were walking out of the lighthouse, and it took us 6.5 hours to get to the lighthouse. And I told Elizabeth it's going to take us about 8 hours to get back. And that lit a fire in her ass as she went off to the woods. Because even walking out, Lisa and I watching her walk past us, like walking out of the state park or the federal, whatever that park is, and then she started running. It's like, holy crap, she's gone. So I hadn't even gotten out of the state park, and she, you know how that big left-hand turn coming back down towards Avon, she had already gone around the corner. It's like, because Lisa and I couldn't find her. It's like, did she stop into the bathroom? Did she stop at the drugstore? It wasn't until we came around. It's like, do I need to call her husband? Because her husband wasn't even aware what she had passed him already. So,
on a mission. Elizabeth, what was going on?
She was on a mission to get back.
I was on a mission to get back. I felt good. It was a sunny day. I was feeling good and farther than I'd ever gone. So I just think that just made my day. So I had extra energy.
Yeah, and it is downhill coming back from the lighthouse too. So as we said during the race, you got to run the downhill. So you got to run downhill. But there is that weird optical illusion where everything looks like it's uphill, but it's not. It doesn't matter which way you were going. It looks like you're going uphill.
We had some arguments where one of us thought it was down, the other one thought it was up, and we couldn't decide which was true.
It is a strange optical illusion, but it's very true. It doesn't matter which way you're going. It does look like you're going uphill, slightly uphill.
Journey runs that I know Lisa has done more than I have, but you tend to stay more towards the nighttime just to get out of the heat or get out of the traffic. But as you alluded to, nothing is open. So you really, for like Stephanie, she's probably grateful that she had Drew, but that's a risky thing. I think this 7-Eleven and Kitty Hawk that's open 24 hours a day. And then there's one might be in Nag's Head. But other than that, everything closed down. So if you're not crewed, you're pretty well carrying everything that you need until the world starts opening up in the morning. So, and sometimes you expect them to be opening up regular business hours, and they are opening up, hours later because there's no traffic. So last year we were trying to get to the Liberty gas station. I knew from calling them they were closing at 8, and then that day they decided to close an hour early at 7 because there wasn't enough foot traffic. And so I did not have the heart to tell Elizabeth as we're trying to make it to the KOA on day 2 that our rest stop and then we were supposed to stop at the restaurant, which was Goodwin's, like a mile down the road. Both were closed for the season already, or one was closing early and the other one hadn't opened up for the season yet. So I think that took a mental toll. And then I didn't have the heart to tell her that we walked right past Kim Drake and she had dropped out, and I didn't want to tell Elizabeth that, hey, she's just taking a little break. She's going to get going any moment now. And I had chatted with her that apparently her knees were really bothering me. This was last year that she didn't want to continue. So I think as long as you kind of stay positive and keep positive people around you, you have a better fighting chance. I've always been told day 3, and more people drop out starting day 3. So.
Yeah, that's when it all kicks in, when you've been going for so long and you realize in these kind of races you've still got a way to go yet, and it sort of gets a little bit overwhelming, and you're already out of calories, you're already hot and sore and stiff and lacking sleep. So now I think the KOA actually is a great segue into the next segment. Like, when did we all start running together? Because it sounds like you guys were already kind of running together on the way down. But I know Stephanie and I had we shared some miles on day 2 over the Pea Island Bridge and coming in. when I left the KOA on, I'm not even sure what morning it was. It must have been Wednesday morning, I guess. I think I left right behind Mike, you, and Elizabeth.
Yep.
I had no
Yep.
idea. Lisa must have gone earlier because
About 15 minutes.
Yeah, you guys were like, "Hey, there's a green dot up there, and we're trying to chase and get to Lisa." But I've no. Stephanie, where were you on the Wednesday morning? Were you involved in the?
I left after you guys. I was fixing Bert, the blister, and
Bert the blister,
and Mike and Elizabeth had left the KOA, and then Mike knew that I was going to hit those bridges and have anxiety because I definitely did. I'm not afraid of heights. I was afraid of just having no egress with those cars whizzing by. Yeah. And so that's when Mike said, well, we'll wait for you at the Pea Island Visitor Center. And that's when we coalesced as a group. And for me, that was actually the best part of the run. It wasn't day 3. It was it was starting at that meeting point at Pea Island and then all the way to the end. Just as a side note, by the way, I thought I found $700 lying on the side of the road on the way to that visitor center. And I picked up all these $100 bills, but when I scrutinized them later, they said something like for motion picture use only. But I had a real rush of excitement in that moment, right after that first bridge. I came off that first bridge, saw this, what appeared to be money on the side of the road. I picked it up, which delayed me a few minutes because I was walking through the grass, picking up these fake $100 bills. And then I tried it to you guys. And
so I think what's interesting about that, Stephanie, is I don't remember you saying, "Hey, I just found $700 lying in the road." So were you like just sort of keeping it stum at that point? You were
I collected
I'm gonna pay
them
for
all.
my race with this.
I was envisioning a party at that hotel in Corolla. Like let's do dinner. I don't know, but
we didn't. Yeah.
But when I looked at them closely, that's when I saw the writing that said for motion picture use only. So I had the elation and then the deflation before I saw you guys.
So did you like put them back where you found them, or did you put what did you do with the notes?
I threw them out.
Leave them where they? Yeah, you just chucked them off, them off for the next person to find and have some have a nice moment there before they also realized that it was fake money, monopoly money. Yeah, very cool. So do you guys think then it was really on the way to and then really starting at the Pea Island Visitor Center where I remember, like, hey, we were all in the same space and we were all sort of then started working our way together, whether we intentionally or not. We were just kind of making our way over Pea Island at that point and into Nag's Head.
Rich, I think you caught up with us at what they were calling it, the Jughead Bridge, right at the Liberty gas stations when you start got up behind us. I know Elizabeth and we left together. I know Lisa said that the plan was to leave at 5, and at 4:45, Lisa said that she was heading out to catch up with her. But I know Lisa, I'm going to walk, and then her walking is running down the street. So I knew we couldn't spend too much time dilly-dallying before we would never be able to catch up with Lisa. So, and then when doing laundry the night before in the laundry room, I met Stephanie's boyfriend, Drew, and he said that told me again that Stephanie was going to have challenges going over the bridge. So that was in the back of my head saying, hey, if she goes out with us, we have to make sure that she stays with us over the bridges. So the first bridge is fine because it's dark hours and very few traffic. I was more concerned about the second bridge is where she caught up with us. So
the big bridge. Yeah.
The big bridge. So
Mike, do you want to paint us a picture of you doing laundry for a minute? Because I think as part of our run, you were definitely quite vivid in your description of yourself doing laundry at the KOA.
Coming back in from the lighthouse, Lisa and I stopped at the Dollar General, and I wanted to, I run very minimal. So if I have a chance to do laundry, I will do laundry. So I bought detergent from the Dollar General, and I bought a 3-pack of Hanes T-shirts, and I took all my clothes off, put my Hanes t-shirt on, and proceeded to go down to the laundry room. And that's where I figured at dark hours, no one's going to see me. So, of course, Drew's doing his laundry there too. So we did chat about it. It wasn't until the next morning when Stephanie spilt the beans that he told, "Hey, I saw your friend Mike down there. He wasn't wearing nothing." So, uh,
Well, we won't quite go into what Drew was doing down there or what
no,
he was
he
wearing.
was doing
but
laundry too. What a good
yeah,
boyfriend he was. So,
that's how I picture it. Just
yeah,
somebody doing their laundry. But Mike, you did, and I think you talked about running minimally. I might even have said this to you at some point during the race, but like it seemed like your pack is magic because it never seemed to get any bigger or smaller, and you were just like pulling out different outfits from that pack, and then suddenly you would appear in a whole different shirt and pants kind of combo, and I'm like, where the hell is this thing? How do you fit that in your pack? It never seems to get any bigger or smaller. Where was all this stuff?
we kind of alluded in our conversation. I'm very concerned about sun protection, so I always wear a fishing shirt. It's a long sleeve. If I get warm, I can roll up the sleeves. You'll find me. I have a convertible pants for the most part. I try to keep them on. They're super lightweight. They're 1980s. They're like bell bottom, but they're super light. If they get wet, they dry immediately. For the most part, they're I can probably go 35 degrees before I have to put more insulation on there. And then in my pack is really a puffy jacket and a rain suit. So for the most, and then other than the electronics and the toiletries and the first couple of times the electronics, each Swammie Shuffle, I can't say journey run. I bring less and less because it's like I carry this brick and I never even used it. So next year I'm not going to carry the electric brick. And it's like there's enough places that we stop along the way that I could plug in even if I didn't need to, just to top off my phone for the most part. As most of them know, I intentionally left my watch at home because I didn't want to be bothered by like, oh, this is going slower than I wanted to, or this section's too long. It's just okay, we know we need to get to this place in the morning or, coming off the beach. It's Uncle Ike's Bar and Grill. I'm going to have a, crab cake sandwich and a pint of beer. And okay, how long is that going to get us there? And then the year before, Elizabeth and I and her husband found bonefish, which had great chowder. So that was in southern shores. I made a point to say, okay, I want to stop and have that. Even though on the way back, we were surprised with Drew and the duck donuts. So that was delightful.
Shout out to Duck Donuts, by the way. Well, Drew first for going to Duck Donuts and finding when they were open, because those folks it's like a mystery van when Duck Donuts is open. They're not open very much, folks. You have to really be on top of that. And they make them fresh there and then, which I guess is the thing about Duck Donuts. But I tell you what, they were amazing. They were even good the second day when we were. I think it was you and I, Mike, that got to eat those before we got on the beach. But Duck Donuts, shout out, great donuts.
I was so disappointed last year. That's all I wanted. I kept talking about it. Poor Mike had to listen to me go on and on about it. And so this year, Drew was like my hero, coming in with a duck donut on the second to last day. Because you're right. We would go by so many of them and they were either closed for the season still or we missed the timing. And that was a huge topic of conversation. We're in Duck. Where are the donuts?
It was. And so Duck Donuts, if you're listening out there, Duck Donuts, for goodness sake, have some longer opening hours, because we'd really like to eat more donuts, especially while we're doing these races. But we struggled mightily, although we did find, I'm going to butcher the name. Was it Wee Winks? Was that the name of the grocery store?
It was.
That was a brilliant grocery store. Last year when I ran this, it was shut every time I went by, but that was a fantastic place. And I'm sorry to Wee Winks, because I think at least Lisa and I went and got refills of soda in that place, and I don't think they actually do free refills of soda.
I paid.
Oh, did you pay? Oh, then now I feel terrible because I did not pay. I just went and grabbed a refill. So I feel terrible. Sorry, Wee Winks, if you're listening. Yes, we just we abused that convenience store, I think, when we rolled in there. Where is it? It's in Duck, is it not? Yes. I think it's in Duck. Yes, Wee Winks, but fantastic place. Go visit.
One of the things I learned from Lisa was to call ahead and place your order at a restaurant close to your hotel. I thought that was brilliant because what was that place called? Pelican something?
Black Pelican.
Black Pelican.
Black
Yeah.
Pelican. That was the best meal that I ate. I think I licked the container. I did not call ahead like you did, but I ordered and then got it after, and that's just such a great strategy. Pick up your dinner right before you hit the hotel, and that's one of the great things about Swammie is that you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Stephanie, you went to Black Pelican as well. Lisa has a great story of spilling Black Pelican shrimp and grits all over the floor of the Holiday Inn whilst trying to check in. So I'm positive, unless they've got some really good rug doctor out there, that their check-in area, if you go next year, is probably going to smell of shrimp and grits.
It was terrible. It was all over my shoe and my gaiter, and I didn't realize, or I would have washed it out that night before, but when I was getting dressed the next morning, it stunk so bad. But it tasted so
lovely
good.
Shrimp and grits coming back. I'm sure it tasted great, but the smell of it in the morning might be something more than I really want.
It was not good.
Indeed. So we had some fun conversation along the way. Were there any other cool or interesting or notable conversation topics that we can share with folks out there that you remember from the journey that we were on?
I think we all took a time coming back on the beach
for me,
watching the sun come up.
I don't think anything really just jumped out, but I just enjoy getting to know the people. Everybody in our group, everybody's just so different and so much fun. Well, we have different backgrounds, but we're all doing the same crazy stuff. So that what brings us together.
Well, it was interesting. I didn't realize that Mike, Elizabeth, and Stephanie were all kind of, I'm not going to say together, but all knew each other, let's say, shall we? And then, Lisa, you and Mike knew each other. So I'm like, okay, I'm the odd one out here. Like, I got to get to know some
Well,
folks.
you knew Mike from last year, though, didn't you?
I did. Mike and Elizabeth, I had met last year along the way. So I did at least know those folks. But yeah, I would agree. It was a lot of fun. And I think what was really cool was that, we'd spend time with a person and you'd talk to them for a while, and then, people kind of come back and forth, and you'd end up kind of on your own maybe for a little bit, or you'd switch out naturally and you'd end up next to somebody else. And so then you'd talk to somebody else for a while. So I think just the group dynamic like that was great. We were all always within, a short distance of each other, but there was a lot of sort of, in my opinion anyway, there was a lot of sort of back and forth and the opportunity to chat with a whole bunch of different people along the way and just kind of get to know folks, which for me and others at the back of the pack, I think that's part of the journey, right? It's part of the appeal is just getting to know people and listening to other stories out there.
True.
But the one thing that I do want to work on, it's what I learned from Elizabeth. I really want to learn how to walk as fast as she can. It's just amazing. I would have to run 50 steps and then walk just to barely keep up with her. And I was like, I got to keep running. I cannot keep up with her walking pace. So I have been so impressed with that.
Yes, there was a day. It was the P Island section, Elizabeth, where you were like on a tear.
Yeah, she was.
You were gone, and I think did you say at some point like I needed chicken or something? I was like, I just want to get to the KFC and get some. But I don't know, but you were on a proper tear that day. What's behind that?
Yeah, so some of the time, I was really cognizant of not holding up the group. I know from the beginning I was with Mike and Lisa, and I learned from last year that I needed to take care of my feet a little better and I needed to fuel a little better than I did last year. And so when I knew that Wamsi, my husband, was going to be up ahead at a certain point, sometimes I would run ahead or I would walk ahead so that I could do what I needed to do, but not hold up the group when they caught up with me. So sometimes I was doing that. And other times I was just hungry. So I was food oriented. Like when we were coming into, I don't know where we were, Nag's Head, Kitty Hawk, somewhere where the KFC, I just had chicken on the lane.
Yeah.
I was just like, I'm hungry. It's time for lunch.
It's time to go eat. So I think, Elizabeth, you mentioned your husband there, Wamsi. Fantastic. Shout out to Wamsi and to Drew, Stephanie's husband, boyfriend?
Significant other.
Significant other? Okay, we'll go with significant other. Those guys really helped us out as a group. Although I don't think that was initially the plan necessarily, but it ended up being that we'd all, because we were all together, we all sort of ran into Drew and Wamsy at regular intervals anyway. But do you think like this would be a very different race if you were running this purely solo? And I think we
Yes.
talked about, Mike talked about this earlier, like you really got to sort of understand where you are and where you're going and what's open along the way. I think this would be a massively different race if you were pure solo. It would be a completely different experience, I think.
So for me last year, I mean, Wamsy was with us just really the first day coming off the beach, getting into the hotel, and then Mike and I were on our own. And again, I'm probably the least experienced here. I am the least experienced here. So the miles were enough of a challenge for me. All those additional obstacles were really weighing heavy on me. You know, we expected places to be open that weren't open, or they weren't open for the season yet, or they closed early. And so I just was unprepared mentally as well as just with what I was carrying and what I had access to.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I'm at the place in my journey to do this solo. And so I told Mike from the beginning, he's like, we got to do it again. And I said, yeah, absolutely. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to be spoiled. And I kept saying that I'm just spoiled. You know, I want to know that I'm going to have proper food. I want to be able to change out my clothing if I need to. I didn't have the confidence that I could do it unsupported because I didn't have a great experience last year trying to do it unsupported. I felt like getting the proper training and putting in the miles for me at this stage of the game was enough of an accomplishment. Maybe down the road I could do something like what Mike does or Lisa does, but for this go around, I really felt like I needed the additional support.
Yeah. Lisa, how about you? Because you're kind of a vet of these sorts of races.
Well, I want to say that I really appreciated Wamsy and Christina because once I knew we were kind of all staying together, and after I had taken out half the crap that I had packed between the KLA and the lighthouse and coming back, it was so much nicer. And so they allowed me to put my stuff in their car, and I never touched that stuff again. So that was a learning lesson. I didn't need half the crap that I brought, but I packed my fears because you never know what you're going to need. So I packed too many warm clothes, and I packed too many like pants and shirts and jackets, and I really needed some more shorts because it was a lot warmer than I was expecting it to be on certain days.
Yeah, I think I saw somewhere along the line on my interneting that is it Vol State this year has sort of banned crews for their race. So no longer you're not even able to have a crew on Vol State, which is another big journey run that folks out there might have heard of. So that in itself, I think, is really interesting to see how people handle that. But yeah, I just think this race to me has always stood out because of those issues we talked about earlier. Like there's not a lot of stuff open, and there's a few sections that are really long for you not to have food and water, or at least the ability to go get it if your timing is slightly off. I think this would be a really challenging race to try to do completely solo under your own steam, so to speak. Stephanie, what was your experience? You had Drew, and God bless Drew. He was trying to sell us hard. He went burger crazy on was it the Tuesday?
Yeah,
we were coming off the big bridge.
or
Man,
Monday.
Monday. There you go. He was selling those burgers hard, and they were some good burgers, I have to say. Although I only had the fries, and I think I found out Lisa and I might have been eating from the same fries.
Yeah.
But yeah, like what was it? So for you, like, is this something you feel like you could have done without Drew?
No. First of all, I probably couldn't have gotten there without Drew because I'm kind of famous for making stupid decisions the week of a race. And the Monday before the event, I was dragging my indoor trees around to spray them with neem oil, and I dragged them outside, and I hurt my back. So I was, sitting was extremely painful. So I had this kind of strange ride down there, lying down in the back of the car. So I probably couldn't have gotten there if he hadn't chauffeured me down there with me lying in the back of the car. Interestingly, I had no problems with my back at all during Swammie. So I think sitting is the culprit. That and dragging trees run. I think for the first time, no, I don't know. On the one hand, having someone there for you means that you can leave. Like you don't have to wait for the wagon to come pick you up when you decide that you've had enough. And so that was kind of in the back of my mind. But I didn't take that route, obviously.
But it is there for you though, right? So it's in in the back of your mind. I could tap out. It would be okay. I have Drew right here. I could just get in the car and we could call it quits and we would drive back to wherever, right?
Yeah, I could get to the lighthouse and then
in some respects, that's probably more difficult because it would be very easy for you to tap out at that point. Where if you're solo and you're halfway to Avon, 90 miles into the race, like what am I going to do here? Like there's no way for me to go anywhere from where I'm at. So I mean, I do think it does seem like a benefit to have somebody following you along, and I think you can set your own timeline with that. Like you could say, right, I'm going to wake up at 1 a.m. and I'm going to start, even though there's nothing at all open. I know that my person is going to be there, shall we say, 5 miles down the road. So I know I can get food and water. Whereas until I sort of morphed into the group, my 12:45 set off from the KOA, I knew 100% there was no option to get food or water that I didn't already have with me until like 8 a.m. potentially on the way back in Avon. And that's a bit of a mental thing to get over, if I'm honest. Because Lisa was talking about you bring what you fear, right? So you end up packing all this stuff on you because you're not sure when you might be able to next get at some water or food, whatever it is. So kind of interesting to run this as a solo. Eventually, though, we all kind of made our way up back through Nag's Head, having demolished KFC. Shout out to KFC in Nag's Head. I don't think they've ever had as many people order as much in one shot as we did when we rolled into. Did anybody have the Taco Bell? Because it's a dual KFC Taco Bell.
I did.
Did anyone? Lisa, you had
both.
How were the tacos?
They were great.
Yeah, did you take them to go?
No, yeah? I ate a mashed potato bowl and one taco, and then I went back and I got 2 more tacos and a spicy chicken sandwich. So I ate all the food except for spicy chicken sandwich, and I took that with me. I was so hungry by the time we got there. And that spicy chicken sandwich was probably the best chicken sandwich I've ever eaten in my life. But it really hurts when you got spicy sauce and sunburnt lips. So, but it was worth it.
That I think is definitely a talking point for anybody considering this race. Do not sleep on the lip balm, because my lips, the wind out there is constant, and the sun that you're going to get, my lips were all kinds of chapped. And I don't think I was the only one out there. But yeah, if you're going to do this race, make sure you take A, sunscreen, and B, lip balm. Those 2 things are gonna see you right. And I don't know that I packed enough of that. I had to stop at the 7-Eleven for some sunscreen. But I had lip balm, and you got to have the, what do you call it? The sun protection.
Yeah.
SPF, yeah, exactly. You got to have that in your lip balm as well. But yeah, so you pretty much demolished that, Lisa, because just up the road, then that was your Black Pelican stuff. So that wasn't too much after the KFC feast, shall we say, that we all had. So yeah, it was a pretty hungry day.
It was
for sure. So we made our way back up. We went back through Duck, Southern Shores, up through Duck into the Hampton Inn. I thought this was a really interesting quirk of this race versus previous races. And Mike, you might be able to comment more on this, having done a few of these in the past. But this year, we were absolutely not allowed to go back through the last 6 miles of the course on the beach and then off the beach to the finish through the wildlife preserve, the Back Bay Wildlife Preserve, because of permits. And in previous years, I don't know if I'm probably doing the race wrong, but we'd sort of skirted around that a little bit.
Correct. They didn't know that we were
they were very strict on, hey, we're not allowing any runners through between the hours of 6 p.m., well, essentially through 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. So I think there was a really interesting quirk to the race this year in that we had to sort of figure out, okay, what are we going to do? How close can we get? And the timing challenge of hitting that 6 a.m. or to start the last 6 miles, or being out of the wildlife preserve and to the finish before 6 p.m. on a day. I thought that was a really interesting and different mental challenge. And I feel like we had a lot of group discussion about this going towards that spot. And I wondered how other people approach this. But yeah, how did you guys feel about that?
I was fine as long as we were just going to wait until after it stopped raining. I really didn't want to go out there and get all wet and then be in the cold wind at the beach. So once we figured out what time we needed to leave the hotel, and then we just adjusted it based on the weather forecast. So we knew between 12 and 12:30 a.m. we could leave and not get wet.
And I will tell you, my corner, if you're listening, we didn't do it this year. Thank you very much for last year when you dragged me across the beach in a raging storm and we got soaking wet and freezing cold. We made the decision to avoid that this year, and I'm very thankful we did. That was a much better experience. But I do think it was, Elizabeth, was I sat with yourself and Christina? We were just chatting, and I was like, this is really weird. We're just sort of sitting, waiting for, I don't know how long we sat in the hotel. So the Hampton Inn is kind of the last realistic hotel you've got before the finish line. And for folks listening, it's about 32 miles from there to the finish. And the last 6 of those is through this reserve. So you've a bit of mileage to go to get to the wildlife reserve first. And then the last 6 miles to the finish through it and out the other side. So yeah, it was just, I think I was with yourself and Christina at the time, who took over from Walmsley as your crew. And we were just saying, this is really weird. We're just sort of sitting here. I think because we arrived at the Hampton Inn 32 miles from the finish at, I don't know, 2 o'clock maybe in the afternoon. Was it earlier than that?
It was 1:30.
Yeah. And so we were like, well, we can't make it by 6. We can't make it through the reserve by 6 p.m. That's not on. So we have to wait now at the hotel in order to be there by 6 a.m. at the earliest, right? I just thought that was weird. Just sort of, we ended up just sitting around.
So we had 2 challenges. We had the challenge of the reserve being off limits past sunset. So had we continued on, we would have A, got caught in the rain, and B, had arrived 6 hours early and just had to wait on the beach for the sunrise or more. And so, yeah, it was just this weird block of time where we didn't know what to do with ourselves, because had it not been raining, we could have left at 9 o'clock and we could have timed it so that we would have arrived at the reserve at sunrise and continued on. But we had the rain to deal with. So it was an unusually long period of time. I mean, Mike and I went and were alternating between the hot tub and the pool. Just try to kill time, took a rest, tried to take a nap. But it felt weird. It felt like cheating in a way. It's like, we're in this multi-day race, and we're like hanging out at a hotel in the swimming pool, and it's like, what are we doing?
I think that's going to be a play for all future races because, and I kind of like the element of the previous race I mentioned, Tar Heel Ultra. You had the time that ferries, and if you screwed up on the ferries, then you were sitting outside with nowhere to go. So I kind of like this, that you have to kind of, in the back of your head, you got a time. You can't just keep going. You got to stop and say, okay. What Nick Yates did, he went the beach towns up before the state line. He was up in that area. I can't remember the name of the town.
Cordova.
Cordova. But he was saying that he was sleeping on someone's porch, so waiting for 6 a.m. to kick in. So just to kill time there.
I mean, I know it was weird, but I'd rather be in a hotel in a pool and a jacuzzi than sleeping on someone's porch in the freezing cold, waiting for the 6 o'clock time.
So,
for sure. That was interesting though, because I think it clumped a bunch of people together who were of a similar pace, which didn't happen last year and presumably years before. Everybody just went through as you approached that, you just carried on and you went through. But
Right.
even the faster folks, I think the Michelle, Lisa, Katie, and others who were up front, they all bunched together at the hotel too and waited. So
Yep.
you ended up with these big clumps of people sort of finishing together. Where certainly last year when I ran it, and probably years before, people would just
Go through.
coming in as and when they
Yep.
finished.
Yep.
A bit more
Well,
spread out maybe.
It was unique because you had the beach prior to the reserve. So, once you entered the beach, there was no place to stop. And that's, you have 22 miles from when you enter the beach to the finish line. So you really have to plan it so that you're not waiting on the beach for hours and hours. It's a very unique situation.
Absolutely. So talking of the finish line, 4 of us, not quite sure what happened to Stephanie, but along the way, she was there shortly after us, but 4 of us crossed the line literally together in our tombstone scenario that we were doing. Who knows? But yeah, we crossed the line together, which was awesome. And then Stephanie, I don't think you were only half an hour behind, maybe that, if so.
I was calling Lisa, asking her where the trail is.
Yeah.
That's right. Where's the blue
You
trail?
guys were sitting there at the finish, and I was saying, I can't find it.
Oh no, we weren't at the finish yet when you called. We were getting close.
Well,
Yes. We were close, but not quite.
I had tried to plan that, finding that trail. I had taken a photo the day we left, but there was snow on the ground that day, so it looked totally different on the way back, and I was disoriented, and I had a splitting headache at that point. So I just couldn't figure it out. So thank you, Lisa, for keeping me from going all the way to who knows where on that beach.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I mean, I had mentioned that to Josh and James too, because I think it seems really easy to pick that trail when you're coming back. And I think if you're fully compos mentis, it probably is. But at that point, when you're 218 miles into a 220-mile race, especially if it happens to be dark, which maybe that won't happen again because it seems like it'll always be light now, given the parameters around the finish. But in the dark, that trail's really hard to pick out, even though you kind of know where you're going with those posts at the end. So yeah, I just wanted. So we each finished. Are there any big lessons or things you feel like you've learned from finishing that race now that we're a week after and everybody's sort of had a little time? Lisa's gone and run 18 miles again today, which put us all to shame. What is a lesson that you've taken away from this race, if any?
I think I would redo my packing strategy.
Packing.
Yes, my packing strategy. I packed a lot of things I never even used, and I would just pack a little differently because that's
interesting, Lisa.
Because I'll do it solo, screwed, however you want to do it, no crew, except for in case people adopt me like Drew and Wamsy and Christina did.
Yes.
So, other than that,
big thanks to them.
If all the stuff that I've got to pack, I would just pack a little differently.
I feel like that's pretty interesting because you're probably, of all of us here, you've done the most of these sort of journey runs, and still that overpacking, or not overpacking, but just packing things you didn't end up using, which is what I did last year. And like Mike, I packed stuff this year again that I didn't end up using. So every year it sort of gets less and less. But I guess maybe that's race specific.
To me it is because it's where you're going, the temperature, time of year kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, and the temperature changes every time. I mean, last year, as I was alluding to, Mike Horner and I got absolutely soaking wet and freezing. So I packed, of course, a waterproof jacket this year and carried that for 220 miles without getting it out the backpack once. But I was okay with that because I did not want to get wet and soaking and cold again as last go around. And then Mike and his magic bag, which stuff disappears in it and it's forever light. So I need one of those bags, Mike. Anyone else got a big lesson or something they've taken away from this that they feel compelled to share?
One of the nice things the last 2 years of this race, they've been able to get a house walking distance to the start finish line, and that allows the runners to get together before the race. And everyone takes a week off because we don't know when we're going to finish, and it allows. I know there's some people who, as soon as they finish, they get in their car, they race back home again. But there's a handful of us who, regardless of when we're going to finish, we know we're going to head out Saturday because we've taken the entire week off. So, and it's just nice to be able to talk with other runners and, share experiences with it. So I'm hoping they can continue getting different houses every year that they put this event on. So,
Yeah, that for me is one of the real differences of this race to other races out there. I don't know that I've done another race that has sort of a runner house for the week so that
right.
you can arrive in advance, talk to people before you go, get out, do your run, come back, and there's still people hanging around at the house afterwards. You can kind of commiserate or celebrate or whatever you need to do.
It's
have a
not,
beer with some people.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. It's so communal, and I love the interaction and just relationship development. You get to meet so many interesting people, and I love that too. That it's not just us towards the back of the pack that hang around. There's the Michelles and others, Michelle Gray and Rick, who are really good runners, very good runners. But they hang around, and that house is so close to the finish line that people can come back to the finish line and cheer everybody in. I think that's just from a community standpoint, that can only help that race. It's just tremendous.
I'm hoping they can open up a little bit more. I understand the concept of keeping everything 22. And I know they opened it up a little bit more this year, so we'll have to figure out what they're going to do next year. So,
indeed, let's hope so, because I really wish, and part of me was guilty this year of signing up again because I was like, I really want other people to experience this race because it's really cool.
Right.
But then I thought, no, I didn't sign up originally. I got FOMO when everybody else was signing up. And then I was like, oh, shoot, I'm going to have to put my name on just to have it on there, But I really would like more people to experience this race because I think it's for a terrific cause, as we know, but also it's a terrific race to do. And there's a lot of that community feel to it, which I think is terrific as well.
I think it's better than the communities that the other journey walks or journey runs do. So, and I can't place my hand on it. So, but I think everyone tends, because maybe it's the colder months or maybe it's more isolated, you tend to be more aware of people around you and make sure that everyone is around you, that everyone's doing okay. So,
absolutely.
So,
yeah. Okay, so one of the things we like to do here on the show, we do like to encourage any guest that comes on to choose a song to add to the free Spotify Choose to Endure playlist, the running playlist that's out there. Typically, it's something family friendly to lift you up or motivate or just sort of keep you moving while you're out on the trail. Now, I did throw that out to you guys. Maybe we'll go around the table real quick. And so what song did each of you pick, and maybe why did that song resonate particularly with you? Mike, I'm going to start with you because I think you sent in about 15 songs. So, but pick one, and
if you really think about
we'll see where we go.
This specific race, every single song applies to this race. But the sunrises, we the last day we all stopped, got our phones out, we watched the sun come up. So Here Comes the Sun by the Beatles.
Brilliant song.
So obviously that a beautiful day. Other than the snow in the beginning, every day weather-wise was a beautiful day. Yes, we had our highs and lows, but weather-wise, we were not in the rain. Yeah, it was a little windy here and there, but every day for runners, it was perfect.
It was, and I don't know if you guys saw, but I think running along the beach both ways, I saw dolphins only feet off the shore, which was incredibly cool to watch the dolphins, a pod of dolphins kind of go along with us. Really cool.
We saw horses coming and going.
And the horses, I didn't see them last year.
So
very, very nice. So Here Comes the Sun, the Beatles, we'll get that one on there.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, how about you? Did you pick a song?
So I'm a huge Indigo Girls fan, and Mike knows this.
Oh. Yeah.
And so I played a lot of Indigo Girls, and whenever Mike would ask me, he's like, is it closer to Fine yet? Is it closer to Fine yet? Which is one of their major songs that most people know. So one time he asked me, and it actually was. That song was playing. So I would say that's my song.
Closer to Fine, Indigo Girls?
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm familiar with it. I'm very lame.
Oh, you're gonna have to check it out.
So like for me, music stopped in like about 1992, and
This is before that.
Yeah, I know. Oh, is it? Oh,
Yeah.
well, I'm definitely going to have to go find that song
Yeah.
and listen to it and see what we can do. But in the meantime, I'm going to add it to the Spotify playlist so that others can enjoy it. Stephanie, what was your song that you picked?
Well, I didn't actually listen to music at all on this journey.
By choice, or just that's how it played out?
By choice.
Do you normally listen to music?
I will listen to music if it's like at night in 100 and I need a little boost, or I'm at the end or something. But I was just really engrossed in
dodging cars.
Dodging cars. Yeah, definitely that. But just the experience, looking at the scenery, and I don't know. But I did listen to Imagine Dragons Take Me to the Beach leading up to the event. I think that's who does the song.
Yep.
And I really love a song from the early 80s. I think it's Frankie Smith. It's Double Dutch Bus. It's fun.
Yeah, so you sent me the YouTube link for that, and I was like, "What is this? I've never heard this before," but it was a very fun video.
Yeah, I love that. And then somebody sent me a video during the event when I shared it with some people. Lisa, I think you saw it. Like you saw it. It's this guy dancing shirtless with a helmet on and glasses, and he's feeding his pig. And what was the song? Born to Be Alive. That was in my brain. It's like a brainworm through a lot of the latter part of the event. Born to Be Alive.
Folks, when you do a 200-mile and it's a journey run, at some point you too will look at your phone and see a guy with a helmet on, no shirt, dancing with a pig, and go, you know what? That's it. That's the song doing it for me.
His parrot in the background in this video sitting on his chicken. It's a great video.
If you don't get to that point, you haven't run hard enough, I think, in a 200. So what are we going with? With Stephanie, are we going with what's your choice? What's your choice to add to the list?
Oh gosh.
And I've got my fingers crossed that it's not the pig shirtless guy.
Okay, we'll go with Double Dutch Bus. You said it had to be family friendly, and that's
absolutely. Yeah. Well, if they have it on Spotify, I will happily put that on there. And Lisa looks like she knows that song, so
it's such a fun song.
She may be dancing along. Yes, exactly. It was a fun video too. I don't know if you've ever seen the video, but that's a good video too. Yeah, it's a fun YouTube video, for sure. And so, Lisa, what was your pick? What would you like to share?
Like Stephanie, I didn't listen to music during this whole race. It's either I'm talking to somebody or, I'm fine with being in my own head for a long time too. So there's a lot of stuff that I can get worked out on, work stuff and planning stuff. But my song is by Miley Cyrus, The Climb, because it's really not about getting to the finish. It's always about the journey. So that's why I like the song The Climb.
Brilliant. I don't know that I've heard that one, and I didn't have a chance to listen to it prior to coming on air here. So I'm definitely going to hide it from my wife and son that I'm looking for a Miley Cyrus song, but I am going to go look it up on Spotify just to see what it sounds like. But it's probably good. If you're picking it, I'm sure it's great, especially with that message behind it. Absolutely. Good job. Well, this has been an absolute blast. Huge thanks to all of you for taking the time to relive our crazy journey with me. I think it's one thing to finish a race like Swammie, the 200-miler, but it's something else entirely when you get to share it with some amazing people like yourselves. So thank you very much to all the listeners out there. If you are grinding through miles, struggling in the back of the pack, or wondering if you too can take on something particularly crazy, let this be proof that sometimes the best experiences come when you deliberately choose to run with others. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the sign-up for the 2026 Swammie Shuffle opens on April the 1st, which is a great day for the race, for the race to open up signing. I wonder if they thought of that and did that deliberately. But either way, I'm pretty sure it opens on April the 1st. So make sure, if you're listening, you head over to Ultra Sign Up and get your name in the hat as one of those 22 or maybe 30 if they're expanding it up again, and be on the lookout for it. While you're out there browsing the internet, don't forget to subscribe to this show, and that way you'll get notified each time a new episode drops. And if you're enjoying what you hear, please do follow, share, maybe even leave a review. That would mean the world to me. Your support helps grow the podcast, connects more runners to this amazing community, and spreads the word to those who can benefit from the information that we share right here. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Choose to Endure, or visit anytime at choosetoendure.com. I absolutely love hearing from you guys, whether it's just to say hello, suggest a topic, or even share your story so that we can talk about it on air here. You can email me directly at info@choosetoendure.com. Absolutely love interacting with you guys. It's one of my favorite parts of doing the show, so definitely don't be shy about reaching out. Until next time, this is the Party Pack. Checking out, run long, run strong, and keep choosing to endure as a group.